Hi, friends, and welcome to 15241 Today Talk. And Jim Render and I are most pleased to have with us a gentleman that knows a great deal about Upper St. Clair, Gordon Mathews. And Gordon has a plethora of titles. Let's see, ninth grade school counselor, alumni coordinator, president of the community fund, freshman football coach. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Let's do it somewhat chronologically. So what do you remember about the first time you stepped on a football field with Jim Render?
Well, the first time I stepped on a football field, I was actually not a player. I'm the youngest of four boys, and so I had three brothers that went through the program, and I was, one of the younger guys just running around at one of the youth camps, and I remember hearing all the stories and the reputation, and fortunately I had some siblings that paved the way for me, so I didn't have to take the brunt of the Jim Render aura when it came to it. So,
well, you weren't intimidated at a young age of Jim, were you?
Not at that point.
Or any point.
What do you remember about this young man as a player for you and as a person in Upper St. Clair?
Well, our history goes way back. His grandmother, Aline Mathews, turned out to be a very dear friend of mine, but she was on the school board when I was hired, and then his dad was a youth coach, and his grandfather built this building that we're sitting in. So there's a lot of history, I guess, between myself and the Mathews family, and Gordon was a quality football player and a quality young man, and I'm also proud to say I had a little bit to do with getting him hired as a guidance counselor here at Upper St. Clair. So,
absolutely.
Anyhow, it's a fun history.
Gordon, what did you learn about life in general from playing football?
Oh, well, I mean, being able to learn from Coach Render here and just the culture that he creates and the teammates that you gain and the lifelong friends that you gain there, all of the difficulties that you work through on the field and off the field, all of those things translate. Learning that resilience and that hardworking ethic or attitude, it all translates to everyday life, and learning that through 4 years of being a player at Upper St. Clair. I mean, long days, hard practices, and realizing that the work that I'm putting in now is going to pay dividends in the future and down the road as the season gets late, as the practices get cold, and continuing to have that motivation to go to practice every single day in and day out as part of a larger team atmosphere. It all translates to working at the high school, working with the students.
At times I wonder if there's some people that don't know about the commitment that a young person puts in to play football.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. I get that all the time, as a coach, especially. We're doing workouts right now for next fall, and we started in January, and it's truly a 10, 11th month commitment to become a football player at Upper St. Clair. And the tradition that's been fostered over the years, I mean, you're part of a larger, group. It's not just the teammates that you have in that moment. It's the teammates that you have. It's the alumni that have played there. It's the Whippeal championship teams, the Sean Lees that have come before you, that you're carrying that torch for the program, not just for the 4 years you're a player there. And then once you graduate, you're an Upper St. Clair football alumni, and that's something special, because then you're part of a group that has endured really difficult times and knows how to push through that adversity. And I meet people in the community all the time who are, oh yeah, I graduated in 85 and I was on this team and we went to WPIALs here. And you immediately connect with those people because they know what you went through and you know what they go through to become an Upper St. Clair football player for 4 years.
Jim has often talked on this program about, he has a lot of things that mean a lot to him, including the fact that he knows so many of his students, they're still great buddies even years later.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, still so I'm coaching on the freshman football team now. The other coach that I coach with, I graduated and played football with him. And so we're still close friends to this day, Sam Gattano. I see and am with teammates of mine all the time. Spencer Scott's one of my close friends who I played for 3 years with. I was a year behind him. And it's not just the people that you play with too. It's the families that they come from that you get to know through youth football. I remember all the coaches I had through youth football. I remember all the coaches I had in high school as well, and still connect with them to this day. So it's not just the other players that you're with. It's the adults too that you connect with and that you form a bond with through your time.
Jim, give me a scouting report on Gordon Mathews, the football player.
I don't know if I want to hear this.
Well, he was I don't know that he was a great football player, but he was a great effort guy. And he contributed mightily. And I'll fast forward on, his last game as a high school senior. We played Penn Hills, and he was a right guard, and the guy across from him was none other than Aaron Donald, who is now the premier defensive player in the National Football League. And along with the fact that Aaron was a great player, Gordon was going to have shoulder surgery right after the season. And our center, he wasn't feeling too good either. He had to have knee surgery. And the ask was to go against the great Aaron Donald. And I think we knew before the rest of the world knew that he was going to be pretty good. Now, I'm not saying we knew he was going to be the premier defensive lineman in the National Football League, but he was very good. And but like I said, Gordon was a team guy, an effort guy. And, I've won a lot of games with people like that. We don't all have, well, you mentioned Sean Lee. We don't have that type player all the time. But what we can try to get all the time is effort people. And Gordon filled that role very well.
What do you remember about that game against Aaron Donald?
I remember a lot of looking back and seeing him sacking our quarterback. I mean, he was so quick off the ball. You couldn't stop him if you wanted to. We would change the snap count up, trying to go on 1, go on 2, go on first sound, silent count. And as soon as that ball would move, he'd be a step behind you before you even knew it. Back then, I mean, he was strong, but he was not the strongest person on the field. It wasn't about strength for him. It was about agility and quickness and his ability to maneuver around you, use techniques. He was a lot of techniques that he could do. Now he's, one of the strongest people you'll see on the defensive line. But back then he was not as massive as he is now. So it was just his quickness it was hard to defend against. And I remember he single-handedly shut down our inside game. So then we're trying to get outside on him. And when you have one guy plugging up the inside of your offense, they can put everybody else on the outside. And it made our offense one-dimensional. It was really hard to combat with somebody that skillful at the position.
To end that story, I recommended Aaron Donald, not that I was a brain surgeon, but Bob Junko, our current coach, Mike Junko's dad, was an assistant at Pitt at the time, and they were thinking about recruiting him. And I said, Bob, he wrecked our whole offense. And so anyhow, Pitt took him, and eventually, he had a great career there. But But they were practicing early in Aaron Donald's freshman season, and Dave Wanstead told Junko, call Render up and tell him he's wrecking our offense too. So that's life in the line.
And I still, to this day, anytime Aaron Donald's winning an award, and he's winning awards left and right, all my teammates will still send me texts with a screenshot of Aaron Donald wins Defensive Player of the Year again. I'm like, thanks, reminding me of the fateful day in which he, completely shut our offense down.
Well, Jim mentioned the Penn Hills game. Do you have a favorite game from your high school career or a favorite season from that time?
Yeah, I mean, so as an offensive lineman and defensive lineman, you don't get to touch the football too much. So my favorite game always is the game I was able to score a touchdown. So we were going against Canamac, and I remember Chris Beck was the other defensive end. I was one defensive end. He came, strip sacked the quarterback. I picked it up and ran about 10 yards into the end zone for a touchdown. So that is always a memorable experience for me because that's the only touchdown I ever had in my football career, and so I can't forget that one.
Probably couldn't save the football, huh? They didn't allow high school players to do that?
I tried. They wouldn't let me.
Have you ever been tempted over the years to tell people, well, I picked it up and ran 90 yards for a touchdown instead of 10?
Every now and again. I'll embellish the story a little bit depending who I'm telling, but since we're on TV, I'm sure it'll come back to bite me if I did now.
You remember that play?
Yes.
One of your 406 wins?
My first year here, the leading scorer was a defensive lineman. We weren't real good, but this kid picked up 2, and he came up to me about halfway through the season. He said, you realize I'm the leading scorer. Of course, I wanted to punch him.
Yeah. It's never a good thing.
What is it about Upper St. Clair that makes it such a great community?
It's a place that you can be accepted into it almost instantly. The community will rally around you when you need them. The community will, take care of its own. And that's something that I think is really special at Upper St. Clair. My family grew up here. My dad, my uncles, they graduated from Upper St. Clair. My grandma graduated from Mount Lebanon and quickly transitioned over to Upper St. Clair. She made the smart move and moved over to Upper St. Clair when we had more students at the high school here, and they really bought into Upper St. Clair and the community that surrounds it and the people here. So that history has always really stuck with me. And it's the reason why I really immersed myself. I left Upper St. Clair for a quick minute, went to college, and quickly moved back. It was the first thing I did was come right back to Upper St. Clair because it's a community that has taken care of me throughout the years. And it's a community that I hope to give back to. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so fortunate to be at Upper St. Clair High School, and Coach Render was a large part of that. And being able to help the students that we have now at the high school it's a really big passion of mine.
Let me go down the list of the things that you're doing. 9th grade guidance counselor.
Yes.
My recollection from when my kids went to high school was that counselors were assigned to students based on the alphabet. Mm-hmm. Has that changed, or is it just you do 9th grade and then they structure the advising differently?
Absolutely. So that's a really good point because this is a brand new structure this year, actually. So we shifted throughout the last 2 years. We've been testing some things out. And so 2 years ago, I was a 9th grade counselor. Last year, I was a 10th grade counselor. And we use that information to try and figure out how can we help our student population the most. And what we see is that the transition to 9th grade is a very difficult transition. They're going throughout their academic career. They never have the large amount of population of students that they do at the high school once they get to the high school, and there's 1,400 students overnight. At Fort Couch, they have 2 grades. At Boyce, they have 2 grades, and then they come to the high school, and it's they're back to 4 grades, and they're 14 years old, and they have 18 years old there. So they restructured the department this year, and myself and Jerry Malarkey are the 9th grade counselors, and we specialize in transitioning the students to the high school. So we spend time going down to Fort Couch, getting to know the students now before they leave for summer, and then we teach freshman seminar classes, helping them through that first semester as a high school student. And then after 9th grade, they transition to a new counselor at that point, and that counselor specializes in college and career counseling. So they focus primarily in 10th or 12th grade on what are you going to do after high school? Let's prepare you for college. Let's prepare you for that next step after high school. And this year's been great. We've been fortunate that we shifted this year of all years with everything going on, being able that we can really focus on that 9th grade population transition to high school in the middle of, this pandemic has been difficult, and it's been nice.
So you will always be the 9th grade counselor. In other words, you won't march with these students through their senior years. You and Jerry will stay with the 9th graders. Yep. They'll have a 10th grade counselor, then an 11th, then a 12th?
They'll have a 9th grade counselor, and then it's going to shift back to kind of what you mentioned, where the alphabet again.
Okay.
And so then the same counselor from 10th through 12th. So, part of my students will transition to Kristen Pardini, and they'll have Kristen Pardini for 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. Same counselor there.
Okay. All right. Alumni coordinator. I'd have to believe that being an alumni coordinator in Upper St. Clair is, I don't want to say it's an easier job, but I would suspect that most people that graduate from Upper St. Clair have a strong connection to the community and to the school.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we started the alumni program. The district received a grant to start the alumni program 4 years ago now. And that's initially what I was hired to do, is start the alumni program. And it's been great. We didn't really have a formal alumni program at the district previous to that. And what we've seen is now that we have a formal alumni program, the alumni, they have such an affinity to Upper St. Clair, like you mentioned. They love this community and they love this school district. So now that they have a formal connection through an alumni program and myself, we've been able to strengthen that bond and bring them back here. And so then the reunion groups every year come and do tours of the high school and get to see the school that they thought was the high school looks a whole lot different now, and give them some history on what's been happening at the district over the past couple of years. So it's a much more formalized program, and it's been wonderful working with them and hearing their stories about the smoking lounge we used to have at the high school and and all those different things that have since gone very much by the wayside. But learning that history and ensuring that we have a connection to our history at the district, it's so important, because we have a rich history of Upper St. Clair, both in football and the success we've had there, in academics and so many other areas as well. So having that connection has been wonderful.
Well, and Jim, you serve on the committee that chooses those that get inducted to the Hall of Fame every year, right? What's the connection there?
Well, we've been a little dormant since the pandemic, but he and the principal, I think, wanted to expand our committee. So there's 4 new members that I really have never been in a meeting with. And I'm not sure where we're headed on that, and I'm not sure if I'm really needed anymore on that committee. But I wanted to ask you, is part of your job fundraising within the alumni or gift?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the things that we've been discussing actually over the past 6 months recently, because we were initially funded by a grant provided to us, and now that money has run out. So fundraising is kind of that next step, right? So we've connected a lot with our alumni, and we're doing a really good job of just bringing them back into the fold of Upper St. Clair. And so that next step would be beginning fundraising and looking at ways to first fund the alumni initiative that we're running, and then also fund projects within the district and things that alumni are interested in donating for. right before the pandemic, we had the class of 1970. One of those members reaching out to us saying, "We're going to fundraise. We want to fundraise. Give us a project that we can get passionate about." And then the pandemic came and shut everything down, of course. So we were just starting to step into that conversation pre-pandemic, and now we're hopefully able to shift back into that because, I always say colleges have this wonderful alumni network, right? A lot of the colleges have these great alumni programs and can fundraise and raise money for wonderful initiatives. Why can't Upper St. Clair? Because I would venture to guess a lot of people, when you ask where they're from, they're not going to tell you the college they came from. They're going to proudly say, "I'm from Upper St. Clair. I graduated Upper St. Clair in 19 whenever." And so capitalizing on that and allowing the district to be able to fund special projects will be the next step that we're hoping to. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think it's easier to connect former students based on whether they were in the band, whether they played football, whether they were part of a significant club during high school?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you hit the nail right on the head there, is that the affinity groups, as we call it, absolutely. That's what they connect with, and that's what they identify with too. One of the first things that they'll say is, "Oh, I was a member of the band at Upper St. Clair," or "I was a member of the theater at Upper St. Clair." So those programs are actually one of the places that we started when we got the alumni program moving, is reaching out to the alumni band group and bringing them into the district alumni group. And the classes, the reunion classes are very tight knit as well. So yeah, that is the strongest bond that people have, is those sports teams or those clubs or those extracurriculars that they may have been heavily involved in when they were Upper St. Clair student. They still are to this day.
All right, let's shift to the community foundation. You're president of that group. Mm-hmm. Give me a synopsis on what the mission statement is.
Yeah, the community foundation is focused on providing funding to programs in Upper St. Clair that is going to enrich the community, support the community, and anything that we feel that the community will benefit from. So we fund anything from, when the pandemic started, we funded a grocery delivery service at the very beginning of the pandemic, to STEM grants for our students who are interested in projects around the community. We have a student who's going to be presenting us information on, he wants to build a cell phone charging station using the stream power and put a turbine in the stream. So he's very interested in that. So he's going to come to the Community Foundation for a grant in the STEM area. We have a lot of different programs that we're also involved in. Our Health and Wellness Committee is looking at ways to strengthen that in the community, doing a step challenge, doing things to get people outside, partnering with our township as well. So really, it's anything that is going to benefit the community of Upper St. Clair that we're really interested in providing funding for. And sometimes it's not just funding. Sometimes it's also just partnering with that group and allowing them to utilize our community foundation website to advertise programs that they're trying to get word out. We do a book club, things of that nature.
Wait a minute. Let me make sure I heard you right. This gentleman is interested in a grant to take the power from the stream behind us here, mm-hmm. turbine, mm-hmm. and make it into what again?
Make it into a cell phone charging station for one of our parks. The amazing things that our students are doing.
I probably won't be on that committee, Lanny. That's above my academic grade.
I don't know how he's doing. I'm just helping with the funding.
That is quite creative.
Yeah, we're partnering with our STEM teachers at the high school recently. So we've just gotten some really new trustees who are very passionate about partnering with the community to get more grants So we're always looking for grant applications from community members. And so we reached out to our STEM teachers at the high school, and they presented us that project from one of their students.
I also know that that Upper St. Clair, when it creates buildings and parks, etc., it does it top shelf all the way. And my sense too is that the community also is encouraging groups to be a part of the new rec center, the pool over there, the fields, baseball, softball, soccer, the Miracle Field. That's my sense, is that the community wants to get its citizens utilizing these top shelf facilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We have amazing facilities here, and so the district partners a lot with the township to allow us to be able to use the community rec center. We send our natural helpers at the high school to the community rec center, and they have wonderful meeting rooms there that we utilize every year. And they allow us to use that. Our youth football programs use the community rec center fields all the time. And that's just a beautiful venue to be able to have, 60 or so 10-year-olds running around playing flag football. And it's a fun atmosphere to go if you're free on a Saturday. And just, I go and see my nephews. I have a nephew who's 10 and 8, and they play flag football. But just the atmosphere when you're up there, and they have baseball going on, and they have the Miracle League has a game going on, and they have flag football in the middle fields. And it really is what Upper St. Clair is all about. And the community members who are around getting to know each other, and just enjoying those facilities that we're very fortunate to have.
Gordon Mathews went to W&J and played football there, business and economics degree, and then went to Duquesne for a master's in school counseling. And so you met Lauren at W&J. Tell me about her. She's an attorney, correct?
Yeah, she's an attorney for the Lynch Law Group. They're based out of Wexford, but they had just opened an office in South Point a few years ago. So she's able to make the shorter commute to South Point rather than going up to Wexford. But yeah, she's an attorney there, doing amazing things with that firm, and that firm's rapidly expanding. And fortunately, she's able to be a part of that expansion. But we met at W&J.
Where's she from?
She's from Scenery Hill area, Bentleyville. She graduated from Beth Center. She's a Washington County native, and I snuck down from Allegheny County, and we linked up. She was the president of her sorority. I was the president of my fraternity, and just naturally got to know each other through that process, and married shortly after undergrad.
When you were in high school, did you ever think, well, someday I'm going to live in Upper St. Clair? And if so, did you know exactly where you wanted to live in this community?
I didn't. I was very fortunate that I was able to grow up. Actually, probably could see the edge of my house from here,
yes.
Overlooking the township maintenance building down here. But you could also see the 3-hole course. But I walked to high school every day, which was fun in the summers and horrible in the winters. But I always wanted to just live in Upper St. Clair. I didn't have a specific area. Me and my wife, fortunately, were able to build a house recently. So I knew I wasn't leaving Upper St. Clair, though. I knew I was going to come back here eventually, and I was going to make that work. I graduated. The plan was never to become a school counselor at Upper St. Clair. That never even crossed my mind. I graduated with a business and economics, as you mentioned. I worked downtown and quickly realized that was not my career path. I was in the wrong field. I needed to give back. I needed to have some fulfillment in my life. And attesting to the amazing community at Upper St. Clair, I reached out to my former principal of Upper St. Clair High School, Dr. Lanny, and Terry Kushner as well, amazing people, and reached out to them and said, I need a career change. I need some guidance. I need some help. And I met with them, and I said, I think I want to go into education. And the first thing, they both looked at me and said, you need to be a school counselor. That's your calling. And they were dead on. They were absolutely dead on. I'm so passionate about what I do and the students that I work with. And without the amazing community of Upper St. Clair and the educators that are passionate about doing what they're doing, I wouldn't be where I am at all. And I wouldn't be where I am without, Jim Render shaping me into, the person I am, that is able to sit down and say, I'm changing my career. I can do this. I can persevere through this. Applied to Duquesne in a completely different field that I had no experience in at all, and was able to do it because of the values I learned at Upper St. Clair and the time here.
Are you still in grad school? Are you getting another degree?
I actually just finished my my principal's program, and at the end of June, I will be a certified principal. So I can continue my educational career, and one day hopefully move along into administration and help larger groups of students. Yeah.
Going back to the community foundation for a minute, I was here when they formed that group. And I don't want to use the word senior citizens, but I will say the people that did it were established uppers. Now, it seems to me that you're still very young to be the, the president of that foundation. That's quite an honor in itself.
Thank you.
And of course, they must see that you're qualified. You've been doing some of that kind of thing since you were president of your fraternity. Mm-hmm. True?
Yeah.
I mean, you. So, congratulations and good luck, because you're involved in so many different areas here in Upper St. Clair. You're affecting young people's lives as a counselor, and then you're affecting alumni, and now you're affecting the community at large with that foundation. So quite a career so far for a young guy, don't you think?
And I was just thinking, as a follow-up to what you were saying and looking at your responsibilities, no doubt about it, you're the right guy to be filling these slots. And Gordon Mathews, thank you very much for joining us today.
I forgot to mention, and he's a coach. He's a football coach.
Freshman football coach.
Of course. And I can't, and I have you to thank. I started coaching, under Coach Render here. I was a 7th grade coach, 8th grade coach, and then he brought me up to at that time we had JVB freshmen essentially, and then was a varsity coach with him as well. Got to be very, very fortunate that I was a part of his last few years as a high school coach at Upper St. Clair, and just see the amazing things we did.
Well, I hope you stay in that coaching for as long as you can before somebody says, well, you're a principal now, you got to give up coaching.
That's the big downside there.
Well, but Jack McCurry at North Hills didn't take that attitude, right?
Jack was unique.
Yeah.
To pull off both those jobs.
Gordon Mathews, thank you very much. Thanks for wearing your Upper St. Clair tie as well, by the way.
Thank you.
That didn't go unnoticed. Glenn Ward is our producer-director. Thanks to Glenn for all his great work that sets us up and allows us to bring special guests to you. This is 15241 Today Talk. Thank you for joining us.